This is Derek Bros. This is Derek Bros of the Conscious Resistance. I'm here in Standing Rock.
That man is wanted in 5 different countries: Chile, Argentina, Brazil.
You have no idea how important you are. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Hey everyone, this is Derek Bros with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today is Friday, February 19th, 2021. I have another important report to bring to you guys today based on an article that I wrote a couple days ago for The Last American Vagabond. But before we go any further, I want to remind you guys to bookmark my website. It is theconsciousresistance.com. So a couple of days ago, if you come here to The Last American Vagabond, you click on Bros series for Derek Bros. You can click on that, and this leads you to my article page, including this most recent one, Understanding the Dangers of Innovation Zones in Smart Cities. Now, this is actually a topic that I've touched on somewhat in the past in my documentary, The 5G Trojan Horse, when I talk a lot about smart cities. We're going to touch on that in just a few moments. I've been talking about the dangers of these topics for going on 3 years now. And it's becoming more and more clear how important it's going to be as we move further into this digital smart grid world, which of course is a big part of the Great Reset agenda being pushed by the World Economic Forum, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, the idea that all human beings will be stuffed into these so-called smart cities where we're going to have driverless cars and robot assistants and sensors in the streets to make help reduce traffic, and sensors all over the place to help reduce pollution, and of course a loss of privacy, a loss of individual liberty, and in some cases the loss of the freedom to drive. So we're going to talk all about this. First though, I want to start with, so just a couple of weeks ago it was reported by the Las Vegas Review-Journal that the governor of Nevada was planning a bill which will allow tech companies to create their own local governments, which is kind of a disturbing thought with everything we know about the tech companies. This was originally reported on February 4th. So it says that the governor announced in his State of the State address in early January a plan to launch innovation zones in Nevada to jumpstart the state's economy. And of course, they're saying the state's economy has been suffering because of COVID. So you can kind of see problem, reaction, solution. COVID hurts local economy. We need to improve local economy. Well, why don't we open up these innovation zones and allow the big tech companies to come in and buy whole swaths of land where they can essentially, act as their own independent governments. And in some cases, this could be a good thing. I mean, like, let's imagine that you or I or some of the more enlightened people out there decided we had enough money to go buy a piece of land and create our own city. I mean, we could do some really beautiful things with it, right? We could create our own private laws and say, hey, the things that they're doing over there, we're not going to do here. We're going to do it differently in our community. And so it could, the idea of like private cities, startup cities, it's not inherently wrong or flawed. The problem here is that the tech companies that are getting involved, they definitely don't seem to have the same utopian or kind of libertarian freedom vision that many of us might have. So according to a draft of the proposed legislation, which was obtained by the Review Journal, and which I do have linked in the article, these innovation zones would allow tech companies like one that they named Blockchains LLC to effectively form separate local governments in Nevada that would carry the same authority as the county, including the ability to impose taxes, form school districts and justice courts, and provide government services. But so that topic has kind of been getting out there now. And the alternative form of local government that they're discussing is going to be built around so-called innovative technologies, including blockchain, autonomous technology, the Internet of Things, robotics, artificial intelligence, wireless technology, biometrics, and whatever they call renewable resources. So again, these towns, these cities are going to operate on a similar level as county officials. They would essentially operate like board of commissioners. So the board of supervisors that would run these smart cities, these innovation zones, would have the same power as a county board of commissioners. The governor of Nevada said that the main company he's working with is Blockchains LLC, as it is a digital ledger, a digital record of all transactions. So when it comes to Bitcoin or crypto, it's a record of the transactions of coins being bought and sold and traded, etc. But blockchain itself is simply just a digital record. And so you could store your health records, you could store marriage records, you could store rental history, you could pretty much store anything dependent on what that blockchain is being built for. So as I write here, digital tech experts have been predicting for years that blockchain technology will revolutionize our world by integrating with various industries. Some blockchain enthusiasts believe the technology could remove the need for centralized institutions like banks and governments. Others worry that the use of blockchain will lead to a future where every interaction is logged on a public blockchain. But here's a quote from Jeffrey Burns of Blockchains LLC from his talk in Prague in 2018. Imagine a world where anybody, anywhere can collaborate, establish the rules of that collaboration, enforce those rules, exchange value, and do it all on the blockchain. No government, no bank, no corporation, just trusting and math. He describes a vision where all life is placed on the blockchain. And that is kind of scary to some people, this idea. This is from Blockchains LLC, their website, just to kind of give you an understanding of how they are describing it. By connecting smart devices to a blockchain, from smartphones and computers to internet-enabled cars, smart locks, advancing manufacturing machines, and security systems, we can facilitate marketplaces, payment services, or even a sharing economy for the Internet of Things. This makes possible not just peer-to-peer transactions, but even machine-to-machine payments for services, from toll booth payments to battery storage, consumption, and trading. Best of all, because these interactions are on a blockchain, they will not rely on financial intermediaries, including banks, or be subject to the security risks inherent in centralized data storage systems. So they're clearly playing up like the positive sides of blockchain. And as I write in here, blockchain is a tool. And as with any tool, their purpose is defined by the person wielding or creating the tool. A blockchain can be created with privacy, transparency, and speed in mind. It's a concept, and it can be used for good or for bad. And for example, our buddy, Bill Gates, it was reported a couple of years ago, he's actually in the process of building his own smart city in the Phoenix area, on the western side of Phoenix. He spent $80 million via Cascade Investment LLC, and this smart city that Bill Gates is helping build is going to be called Belmont. So I don't know about you, but I personally wouldn't want to live in Bill Gates' smart city. I don't think, I don't think that there's anything that he has to offer that I couldn't get elsewhere. But the point is, this concept is not going anywhere. It's going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to see this idea expand. And so what we're talking about here are two things: what they call innovation zones, special economic zones. And these are becoming more and more popular around the world as governments try to lure in financial investors and just start making money. Well, maybe this big tech company is willing to come spend the money to convert that area and turn it into a livable city. But there's a difference at the moment between what we're seeing and what the future is going to hold. So let me just kind of break this down before we continue. Innovation zones are essentially saying, like I was just describing, that a company comes in and they purchase one particular area of land, and then people can voluntarily choose to move in there and say, hey, look, I live in this futuristic smart city. As I'm about to show you one example in South Korea, in the Songdo district, where they've already built this smart city and people are voluntarily living there. But you can also voluntarily choose to leave if you want. That's where we're at currently. But the future that is being described by the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum, Agenda 21, 2030, is this idea of creating smart grids, smart cities, so that all the major cities, let's say Houston in the United States, or Tokyo, or London, or any other major city, Buenos Aires, could be converted into a smart city where you can't leave. I mean, I guess theoretically you could still leave and move to another town, but if smart cities are everywhere, if the smart grid is everywhere, then how do you leave? How do you get away from that? Do you understand what I'm saying? So right now they're using these innovation zones and smart city kind of sectors to create these, but eventually, according to these people's own paperwork and own messaging, they want to have smart cities be everywhere. They want it to be everywhere. So then, as I'm about to show you with this Songdo in South Korea, if you are surrounded by sensors that are monitoring everything you do, and that they report to the authorities if you litter or if you don't take your trash out on time, this starts to get to a very scary place, okay? So the smart city trend is rising now as more corporations and local governments are seeking to partner. These are just some of the reports I found. India has already pledged to build 100 smart cities. Africa is seeking 100 billion pumped into at least 20 projects, and China has as many as 500 of its own smart city pilots. Saudi Arabia has jumped into it with this city called Neom, which is going to be a $500 billion project that they hope will one day rival Silicon Valley. And it's going to be larger than New York City. And they're describing this as the next center for human progress. So smart cities are not going to go away. But as I said, we already have one kind of existing smart city that we can look to as an example. We actually have multiple. We're going to talk about Songdo International Business District, or Songdo IBD, which is a 1,500 acre stretch of land along the Incheon waterfront, just 20 miles southwest of Seoul, South Korea. And they describe it as in the following ways: a place where the garbage is automatically sucked away through underground pipes, where lampposts are always watching you, and where your apartment block knows to send the elevator down to greet you when it detects the arrival of your car. Sensors in every street track traffic flow and send alerts to your phone when it's going to snow, while you can monitor the children's playground on TV from the comfort of your sofa. Doesn't that sound so great? And I took a couple screen grabs here that you can see for those who are watching on screen. This is directly from a report about Songdo. So these images that I'm showing you are like, they just show like how they have surveillance cameras everywhere. So you have a surveillance camera on a pole, right? And then there's active monitoring. So it's monitoring everything going on, as you can see over here on the left side of the screen. And then it shows like some fictional scenario, maybe somebody's being mugged, alert, alert. So then that sends out monitoring to the whole system in that area, and it transmits that event to the cops and whoever else. So clearly, if you're concerned about crime, this sounds like it might be a good thing, but it's not like these cameras turn off. They're recording 24/7. Now, this is an even more direct to the point. Songdo was designed not only as a smart city, but as a ubiquitous city, a smart city with ubiquitous technology, a city where computers and sensors are built into the buildings and streets, and sensors are gathering information on daily life, traffic, and energy consumption. And it was previously described in the following way: everything has a U in front of it. So U traffic, U safety, U governance, U health, and of course, U entertainment. What does that U stand for? Ubiquitous, because the surveillance is omnipresent. In other words, Big Brother is here. They're monitoring all the vehicles, supposedly for crime recognition, crime prevention. They have license plate cameras everywhere. I mean, this is the world of the future that these crazy people are trying to build for us. And they also describe a central command center where all footage from crime prevention, disaster prevention, environment, and traffic surveillance cameras is monitored to provide useful information to the citizens. Excuse me. Internet of Things sensors installed in houses and buildings are also designed to provide real-time information to users about how much energy is being consumed and what measures you can take to minimize your utility bill. So again, in regards to environment, you can see how this is how this is going to be promoted as a really positive thing. So they're basically saying, like, look, if you care about the environment, then we need smart cities so that you can know whenever there's too much pollution, or know if you're using too much energy. It's just crazy. I mean, it's really crazy to see how this is being pushed. But the point here, the reason I wrote this article, was so that you can understand the dangers of innovation zones and smart cities. But some of this was featured in my documentary, The 5G Trojan Horse. I also talk about Quayside. Quayside is a smart city that's going on in Canada. And there's already been a number of people resigning from Quayside because they're saying, look, they're building this smart city without taking privacy into consideration. So the final part that I want to read to you here is, it says, with the exporting of smart city models from Korea and recent announcements about building a smart eco city in Singapore, it appears that the smart city trend is not going anywhere. For the moment, these innovation zones and smart cities are simply marketing tools designed to bring people and money to the newly created cities. They are voluntary, with people freely choosing to live there and leave if they are unhappy. However, with the understanding that the goal is to turn all cities into smart cities, we need to ask what happens if the smart grid is everywhere and there is nowhere to go. In a future where all towns are out and cities are outfitted with the latest smart technology, fighting to maintain privacy and freedom of movement is crucial. And it's also important to understand that these innovation zones, special economic zones, and smart cities, to understand them in the context of the World Economic Forum's Great Reset vision. And then I asked this question: how do these emerging technologies and concepts play a role in creating the centralized authoritarian vision imagined by the talking heads at the World Economic Forum? So in the next part of this article, it's going to be a two-part investigation. I'm going to further illustrate how smart cities is directly related to Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, and the Great Reset, and how the people who are pushing the smart cities agenda are the same people who are pushing the Great Reset. That's very important for you guys to understand if you are not familiar with these situations here. And again, like I said, I know that I already outlined this in my documentary, The 5G Trojan Horse, which you can find on theconsciousresistance.com under documentaries. I am going to play you guys a short little clip that I put together 3 years ago. Let me see. It's called "A Vision of a 5G Smart City." And this is when I was first starting to really research on 5G, because the thing is, the smart cities, in order for them to work with driverless vehicles, robot assistants, low latency, high speed, everything, we have to have 5G and 6G. That's why, despite there being literally no public demand for faster internet, the telecom companies and their partners in governments are pushing 5G and 6G as quickly as possible because they want this world to come in. And as we're seeing with COVID, they are going to say, look, COVID has proven that our systems are broken and that we need smarter cities. Just one example that I'll give briefly is here. I did a report yesterday on Texas and talking about the breakdown of the power grid here in Texas. And what we're seeing is they're already pushing and saying, well, this is why we need to have a smarter electric grid, right? So problem, reaction, solution. They say that the grid can't handle it. Whether you want to blame it on renewable energy or gas and coal, it doesn't matter. The point is that see, this is a real example of why we need to abandon these old systems and we need smart systems, a smart grid. So I'm going to go ahead and shut up and play you guys this clip. This is from a report I did back in November 2018. It's called "A Vision of a 5G Smart City." Please check this.
Should you find yourself in Terminal B at Newark Airport, look up. Those aren't just new lights, they're smart lights, a sophisticated array of LED fixtures with built-in sensors and cameras connected over a wireless network. They monitor security, the flow of foot traffic.
Beginning in the fall of 2018, telecommunications companies began rolling out their fifth generation, or 5G. These networks will allow the future envisioned in sci-fi fantasies to finally come to life. But will this technological world of the future turn into a digital dystopia? 5G will herald what has come to be known as the Internet of Things. The IoT is the name for the growing list of interconnected digital smart devices. This includes everything from cell phones, coffee makers, washing machines, headphones, lamps, wearable devices, and almost anything else you can think of. The concept of the Internet of Things has been around for years, but now that 5G is coming to fruition, we will see an explosion of thousands of devices sending all types of data to each other. This will lead to what some have called a digital smog, or soup, due to the electromagnetic radiation released by these devices and the new infrastructure needed to make the 5G smart grid function. Despite a growing number of people expressing their concerns around health and calls for more studies, the 5G network has been rolling out across the United States. Now that the rollout seems inevitable, it might be prudent to take a moment to see what the various corporations pushing the 5G smart grid have in mind. Let's take a look at Samsung's 5G digital city in Korea. A writer with Forbes describes how 5G hotspots demonstrate how quickly a person in a moving vehicle could download and upload large files to the network. They envision sporting venues using 5G hot zones to deliver personalized video feeds of a customer's favorite player to their mobile device, or allow healthcare providers to test assisted surgery with augmented and virtual reality. Other use cases for the smart city technology include CCTV, traffic control, and smart lighting, where environmentally friendly lights automatically turn off when no one is nearby. Noticeably missing from this endorsement of Samsung's privacy-less city is the fact that these CCTV cameras and devices are recording 24 hours a day and are capable of notifying law enforcement if someone jaywalks, speeds, or whatever other behavior the Crown has deemed illegal. Let's take a look at another example of a smart city. Quayside is a smart city located on 12 acres of waterfront property southeast of downtown Toronto in Canada. Quayside represents a joint effort by the Canadian government agency Waterfront Toronto and Sidewalk Labs, which is owned by Google's parent company Alphabet Inc.
The vision is for a data-driven community complete with self-driving cars and other elements of a smart neighborhood.
Sidewalk Labs claims Quayside will solve traffic congestion, rising home prices, and environmental pollution. Unfortunately, residents of Quayside will be accessing a centralized identity management system through which they access public services such as library cards and healthcare. However, there has been some resistance. Recently, Anne Kavokian, one of Canada's leading privacy experts and Ontario's former privacy commissioner, became the latest person to resign from the project.
I was hired by Sidewalk Labs to embed privacy by design into all of the smart city operations. I developed privacy by design years ago. It's a framework of proactively embedding much needed privacy protective measures into the design of the smart city. Now, normally that would involve obtaining the positive consent of the residents of the city, but we know that's not possible here because the data will be collected automatically by sensors and other technologies, so the opportunity for consent doesn't exist.
She later learned that third parties would be able to access identifiable information gathered at Quayside. Besides the health and privacy concerns, we must consider what the rollout of this technology means for someone who does not consent to the technology. They simply can't go in their homes or easily opt out of it if it's everywhere. Julie DiRenzo, a real estate developer who left Waterfront's board in July, told the AP that she wanted to know if those who didn't opt into the city would be told that they couldn't live there. As one Toronto journalist wrote, "It's one thing to willingly install Alexa in your home. It's another when publicly owned infrastructure, streets, bridges, parks, and plazas is Alexa, so to speak." What does this mean moving forward? We must alert everyone and anyone willing to listen to the health, privacy, and freedom concerns related to the rollout of the 5G surveillance smart grid. Otherwise, there is no hope for saving privacy.
But that's where we're going to leave it for today, guys. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for being with me. This is Derek Bros of the Conscious Resistance. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.
This is Derek Bros. This is Derek Bros of the Conscious Resistance. I'm here in Standing Rock.
That man is wanted in 5 different countries: Chile, Argentina, Brazil.
Oh, stay alive. You have no idea how important you are.